Welcome back to the part 2 of our basketball lesson. In our previous video, we learned to implement the functionality to make the ball move up when we press the space key and implement the gravity functionality so that the ball would always fall down no matter where it's moving. So we are now going to implement the functionality to make the ball move forward. We will implement the functionality so that when the ball is bouncing up, we can press the Q button to throw the ball forward towards this red box, the goalpost here. And then we will also implement the functionality to detect the ball's collision with the goalpost, and when the ball collides with the goalpost, we will increase our score. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to open up my whiteboard. So I have my camera here that is looking at the game, and I have a ball. So we have, this is the positive Y direction, and we know that this is the positive Z direction because the Z position of the player was 0 and the Z position of the ball was -8, right? Because we know that, so we know that as you are moving farther away from the player, the Z is decreasing. So this is the negative Z direction. So now we know that we have the ground here and there is this goal here, goal box that we have in the game. So what we are doing is currently we are making the ball move up. We are giving it a speed Y to make it move up. So because we are not changing the Z position of the ball, so it's not moving in its forward backward direction. But just like we are saying ball dot set Y to ball dot get Y plus speed Y, what we can do is we can introduce a new speed variable and call it speed Z. And we can give speed Z some value, let's say, because we want the ball to move in this direction towards the goal. So we want to decrease the Z position of the ball. So the speed Z will be a negative number. So I can say speed Z is -0.3, let's say. And then we can say ball dot set Z to ball dot get Z plus speed Z. And this line of code can be added inside the timer. But one thing that we are going to do is notice that the gravity is currently changing the speed Y value. We are not going to change the speed Z value with the gravity. Why? It's something you will learn in your physics classes, but gravity only acts in the downward direction. That means it will only affect the Y position and Y speed of any moving object. Gravity will have no effect for objects moving in the forward or backward direction or in the left and right direction. Let's say you have a very smooth surface and you slide a ball forward. The ball will keep on sliding forward. This is one of the Newton's laws of motion, that an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force. And gravity is an external force. But the main point missing from here is that the direction of the motion is important and the direction of the force. So if your ball is moving in the X or Z direction and your force is acting in the Y direction, then this Y direction force will have no effect to the ball's speed and position in the X and Z values. So that is why we are not going to change the speed Z value with the gravity value. So let's go back to our code, and here we can say, let's create a new variable, call it speed Z, and I'm going to give it a 0 value for now. And after changing the Y position of the ball, I can say ball dot set Z, capital Z, followed by a pair of round brackets. Now inside these round brackets, I can say ball dot get Z, find out the current Z position and add the speed Z value to it. Right now, if you run the script, your ball will just fall down. It won't be moving front or back. If you, let's say, give your speed, I'm going to give the speed a negative 0.3 value. And now run the script. You will see that the ball keeps on moving forward. So if you give the ball a positive speed and run the script, you will see the ball will move towards you. See that? So Z is the forward backward direction, and we can manipulate the Z position using the same way we were changing the Y position. So here I'm going to set the Z position of the ball as 0. And what I'm going to do is, in the key down event, here we will write that when you press the Q button on the keyboard, then I'm going to set the speed Y to 0.3, minus 0.3. So in the key down event, I can write the logic else if after the space key if condition. So here I can write else if a pair of round brackets, and inside the pair of round brackets we will write event dot key double equal to, and then the name of the Q button is just Q. So name of the Q button, name of any of the alphabet buttons on your keyboard is that alphabet itself. So event.key double equal to Q. And after the round brackets, you will write a pair of curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets, you will write what will happen when the Q button is pressed. So when the Q button is pressed, I want the speed Z value to be equal to minus 0.3. And you can run the script now, and you will see that as the game moves, see, currently your ball is not moving. Currently your ball is not moving forward or backward. Earlier, when I had not written this condition and you just had a speed Z of 0.3 or minus 0.3, the moment code started running, your ball was moving forward or backward, right? But currently your ball is not moving. But now if I press the Q button, you see the ball starts moving towards the goal post. Now there is a small modification I would like to do. I don't want the ball to move once it has hit the ground. I want the ball to move only when it's in the air. I want the ball to move even in the Z direction only when it's in the air. Okay? I don't want the ball to move in the forward or backward direction once it has hit the ground. So we know that once it has hit the ground, this if condition runs. Yeah? So here, when the ball hits the ground, we are saying speed Y is set to 0 and the Y position of the ball is set to 0.5. Here I can say, once the ball hits the ground, I want the Z position of the ball, the Z speed of the ball to be set to 0 as well. And once the ball has hit the ground, I can make the ball come back towards wherever I am standing. So I can say ball.setZ to, we know that the current Z position of the ball is minus 8, so we will bring the ball back to the minus 8 position. So what will happen now, see, the benefit of doing this is when you run the script, now you see your ball will fall down if you don't do anything, right? Now if you try to press the Q button, your ball will not move. But when you press the space key and then press the Q button, your ball will move. And then once it hits the ground, it will come back to the initial position. So now you see, I can press the space key and then press the Q button to throw the ball. So it's a really simple logic that we have written, but this modification brings the ball back to you once the ball has hit the ground. Cool. So with this done, now we can add the logic of, making the ball collide with the goalpost and adding the score logic as well. So let's see how to do that. So before actually we do that, I want to show you something else. You notice that here we have written event.key is double equal to Q, and we have written small q. Remember, I talked about this in our previous lessons, that most of the programming languages, they treat capital letters and small letters as different characters. So what I want to show you is when you run the script, see, when you press the space key and press the Q button, your ball will move forward, right? But now turn on your caps lock key. Now when you try to press the space key and then press the Q button, you will see that the ball is not moving forward. That's because now when you press the Q button, the Q button's name is capital Q. It's not small q. As a result, even though you are pressing the Q button, this logic is no more correct. So your computer will not move the ball in the Z direction. So what we can do is, we can modify this logic here to detect when the small q button is pressed or when the capital Q button is pressed. So we can use logical operations. So there is something called logical operations. What you can do is, you can say if event.key is equal to q, and then we can say or event.key double equal to capital Q. You can enclose the capital Q inside double quotes, or you can enclose the capital Q inside single quotes as well. So this is what we need to tell our computer, that if event.key value is small q or capital Q, in both of these scenarios, turn the speed z value to minus 0.3 so that your ball can move forward. But you cannot just write this OR here like this. What you have to do is, this OR is written as two straight lines. This two straight lines means OR in your JavaScript language. Now, this two straight lines, you will find the straight line symbol in the button that's just above your enter key on the keyboard. So that single straight line, you have to press it twice, and when you press it twice, you get these two straight lines. This means OR. Okay, OR is a logical operator. We use plus, minus, multiplication, division, right? These are called arithmetic operators. And when you're using this OR symbol, you're telling your computer to check for whether the name of the keyboard button is small q. If the name of the keyboard button is small q, then speed z will become minus 0.3. Or even if the name of the keyboard button is capital Q, even then the speed z value will become minus 0.3. So you're saying when any of these two, we are writing two conditions here, right? This is one condition and this is the second condition. And we are saying that when any one of these conditions are true, then we will set the speed z value to minus 0.3. So this is called a logical operator. And there are more different types of logical operators that we will learn as we move forward. You see the plus equal to that we learned here. This is also an arithmetic operator. So there are lots of different types of arithmetic operators, and then there are lots of different types of logical operators. So we are learning one type of logical operator that's called the OR operator. Now here, when you run the script, you will be able to move the ball forward even if your caps lock key is on. Now, when you press the small Q button, even then you will be able to bounce the ball, throw the ball forward, or when you press the caps lock key and then press the Q button, even then you can throw the ball forward. Now, to check for whether this OR operation is working or not, what you can do is you can say if event.key double equal to Q, or we can say here if event.key double equal to, let's say, W. So now what you're saying is, if the Q button is pressed or the W button is pressed, when any of these two buttons are pressed, then set the speed z value to minus 0.3. So now when you run the script, what will happen is, when you press the Q button, then you can throw the ball forward, and when you press the W button, even then you can throw the ball forward. So when you are attaching multiple conditions using the OR operator, when any one of those conditions are correct, the activity will happen. So this was the OR operator. So now let's come back to our game where we are going to code the logic of deciding when the ball collides with this goal post, with the goal box here, then we will add score to our game. So to detect collision, so what we need to say is when the ball passes through this red box, right? So when the ball is hitting this red box, that is when we are going to consider that a goal has happened. Okay, so what we will do is we are going to first of all take our cursor to a new line of code, and now we are going to add the logic that will detect when the ball is colliding with this goalpost. Go to your ball object here, click on the ball name, and you will see in the list of JavaScript functions that appear, at the very top there is a function called detect collisions with. So this is a JavaScript function that will help you detect your ball object's collision with other objects in the game. So click on this detect collisions with, and you will see that this black box explaining what detect collisions with does. We can close this for now. And we see that this new code has been added to our code editor. So what I'm going to do is let's just walk through what exactly is present here. Now, detecting collision is another event, just like we have this add event listener for key down. Key down is an event, right? So similarly, detect collision with is also an event, but detect collisions with is an event that we are defining in the Hatch workspace. Key down is a universal JavaScript event that can be used wherever you're coding. Even in any website that you're coding, you can use this add event listener to use these predefined JavaScript events of key down, key up, or scene click, or mouse down, mouse up, all of those predefined JavaScript event. Detecting collision between two objects is not a predefined event, okay? That is something that we are specifically defining for the Hatch XR workspace, right? So the way this works is just like any other event, you define the object name ball, then dot, and then the event name. So the event name is detect collisions with, and then you have round brackets. Inside the round brackets you have inputs, just like you have inputs for all these other events, all the keyboard events, or for timers you have different number of inputs, right? For event listener you have two inputs, the name of the event and then the activity that will happen when the event occurs. Similarly, for your timer, you have three inputs. You have name of the timer, you have the time interval, and then the activity that needs to happen in the time interval. So similarly, in this detect collision with, we have two inputs. You first have the input that contains the name of the object with which your ball is going to collide with. Now here, there are some default names that says box and cylinder. We are going to delete this. We are going to delete this box and cylinder. So here, there is just delete everything, keep the comma. Okay, so before the comma, everything that's present, we will delete it. So this is the space for writing the first input of your detect collisions with event. And this is where you will write the name of the object that you want ball to collide with. So we want the collision with the goal box to be detected with this red box. So this red box has the name goal box. So here you will write the name goal box, GOAL, and as you type the name, you will see the name appear in the suggestion of the code editor as well. So you can click on this name here and you see the name gets auto-filled. And then there is a comma, and then you have the second input. The second input is just like for all the other events, the activity that needs to happen when the collision is detected. So what I'm going to do here is, for now, I'm just going to say, go to utilities here and click on log. So when I click on log here, you see it says hatch.log hello world. So I'm basically saying whenever the ball is colliding with the red box, in the console, print out this word hello world. So let's see if this collision is working or not. So here, when I press the space key, see, when the ball collided with the red ball, this hello world got printed here. If your console is not open, you can click on the word console and it will open up the console, okay? Now you can see anytime the ball collides, it will print out the word hello world. So the detect collision with logic is working. Now we can define what will happen in the game when the ball is colliding with this goalpost. So we can say, we can introduce scores to our game. So what we can do is, first of all, we will add a variable that will keep track of how many times the ball has collided with the goal box. So I'm going to create a variable, let score. The name of the variable I'm setting here is score. So let score is equal to 0. So initially the score is going to be 0, and then what we will do is, anytime my ball collides with the goal box, I'm going to increase the value of the score variable by 1. So I'm going to say score is equal to score plus 1. So we are modifying the score variable, we are increasing the score variable by 1. Just like here, we were modifying the variable of speed y with the gravity by saying speed y is equal to speed y plus gravity, right? Similarly, here to increase the score variable value by 1, we can say score new value of score is equal to old value of score plus 1. So anytime your ball collides with the goal box, the score will keep on increasing by 1. Now, this is one way to write this. Now, we learned earlier in this same lesson that we have a shorter way of writing this line of code, right? When you said speed y is equal to speed y plus gravity, we wrote this in a short form as speed y plus equal to gravity. So we can similarly write score plus equal to 1. This is another way you can write the same line of code. This line of code is same as this line of code. But when you are increasing a variable's value by 1, most of the programming languages have a much shorter way to write this logic. So what you can do is, if you just want to increase the value of a variable by 1, you can just say score and then say plus plus. This line of code is just telling your computer to increase the value of the score variable by 1. Now we can say, if you let's say wanted to increase the score variable by 2 anytime the goal is scored, then we cannot say score plus plus. The plus plus operator has a very specific meaning of increasing a variable's value by 1. So if you wanted to increase the value of score by 2, then you would have to say score plus equal to 2. Only when you want to increase the value of a variable by 1, that is when you can use this smaller format of saying score plus plus. And this is going to basically increase your value of the score. Now, if you run the script and test your ball's collision with the goal box, see, currently nothing is happening. There is nothing getting printed in the console as well. And even here, where we are trying to display score :0, the score is not increasing. And that's because we have not written any code here to actually display the score. So what we can do here is, first of all, after increasing the score, let's actually print out the value of the score in the console. So what you can do is, you can go take your cursor and ensure that your cursor is in a new line of code, and go to utilities, click on log, and close this black box. And here I can delete this hello world phrase completely and tell the computer to print out the new value of score. Anytime the score value increases, print out the value of score. So now when you run the script, you will see that anytime the ball collides with the goalpost, the red box, the value of score is increasing and it's printing out the value of the score here. So now that we're able to print out the value of the score, let's actually display the score in the 3D text that we have here. So see, the reason this 3D text is not displaying the current score is because we have to tell our computer to do that. Okay, our computer will not automatically just display the score value inside this 3D text. This 3D text is an object in our game. So just like any other object, what we want to do is, here for this 3D text, we want to change the text that is written inside the 3D text. And so we have to write some code that modifies the 3D text object for it to display the updated score. So let's do that. So after increasing the score, what we are going to do is here, I'm going to just ensure my cursor is in a new line of code and then go to the scoreboard, this 3D text object, and click on this 3D text. And now if you scroll down, you will see that in this setters category, there is a function called setText. This setText will help you set the text that is displayed in the game here. So when you click on setText, you see you get a new line of code that says scoreboard, the name of the object, then dot, and set the text displayed in this object to, and then see it's followed by a word written inside the single quotes or double quotes. So here, what I can do is I can delete this mushroom word from here completely, and I can say set the text to the score value, the value of the score variable, and let's see what happens now. So let's run the script. And now you will see that as you bounce the ball and try to make it move through the goal post, you see the number, your score value is getting updated in the game. Now I have scored 4 goals. You can see the score value is also getting printed in the console and it's displayed in this 3D text in the game as well. I can comment out the hatch.log score here and then it will print out the value here. But you see, what happened here was when I was running this game, this text was only displaying the value of the score number. Okay, it was not displaying this extra text that I have here, SCORE, colon, and then space, and then the number. I want this score word to be visible as well. And to do that, we will have to modify this set text. We will have to tell it to display the score text as well. So what we will have to do is, we will have to, first of all, just delete everything inside the set text and then start with a pair of double quotes. Inside the pair of double quotes, you will write what you want to be displayed, the fixed text. So that is going to be score, colon, and space. This is what I want to be displayed constantly here. And then after this, I want the score value to be displayed. So to attach the score value with this text, I'll have to say plus, and then the variable whose value I want to display, that is score. So I will walk you through why exactly are we doing this in just a minute, but let's just see what happens when you do this. So when you run the script right now, you will see that as you run the game, see, now when you score a goal, it says score, colon, space, and then the score number is displayed here. So what's happening is your scoreboard.setText, when this line of code is setting the text of this 3D object here to this text and then placing the score value just on the right of this text. So that is what's happening here. So let's actually understand why exactly did we do this. So one of the things that I did not cover in our first few lessons was what are the different types of data that we can store in our variables. Let's actually go through that first of all. So see, in most of the programming languages, we have different types of data. We can have data in forms of numbers. So you can have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these numbers. Or you can have negative numbers as -1, -2, -3, and so on. Yeah, you have these numbers. So these are called integers. So the integers are one type of data that can be stored in your computer in JavaScript. Then you have decimal numbers. You can have decimal numbers as 0.1, 0.01, different types of decimal numbers. You can have negative decimal numbers as well. You can have -3.1275, something like this. So these are all decimal numbers, okay? So these are called floating point numbers. So floating point numbers are another form of data that can be stored. So whenever you're creating even a variable, you can store integers in a variable. You can store floating numbers in a variable. Now there's another type of data that can be stored, and this is what I wanted to talk about, and these are called string. Strings are basically characters. characters like A, B, C, D, all of these individual alphabets, or words like when you saw hello world. String is basically either individual characters or a group of characters. But when we are defining string, see, when you're defining numbers, you can just write the numbers as it is. You can write the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can write these numbers as it is. When you're defining floating point numbers, again, you can just write these numbers as it is. But when you're defining a string, you have to start and end a string with single quotes or double quotes. That is how your computer knows that you have defined a string. So it's basically going to treat this as a data type of string that contains the value of hello world. So string can be anything. It can be your name, it can be your country, it can be like I'm in India, my name is Nitish. You can store anything in string. Okay, you can even store numbers. Like you can store a combination of numbers and names. And this entire thing together will be considered as a string. So you will notice that we have been using strings in our code till now. Even in our first session, in our second session, and now we have been using strings a lot. You see, when you defined the name of a timer, you enclosed the name inside single quotes or double quotes. The name of a timer, that's a string. Similarly, when you were adding this event listener of key down or key up, you were enclosing the event name inside single quotes or double quotes because the name of the event is a string. Similarly, the name of any key that you have pressed on your keyboard is also a string. That is why we are enclosing that inside single quotes or double quotes. So what we are doing is, when we are saying here scoreboard.setText, so the setText, what this does is it needs a string input. Okay, it needs an overall string input that can be displayed in the text object here. Now, when you add a number, when you say, let's say 2 plus 2, when these are treated as numbers, you will get the output 4. But what you can do is you can actually join two strings together using the plus operator. So you can say Nitish plus hatch. When you use a plus operator with a string, it joins the strings together. So the output will be Nitish hatch without any spaces. There will be no spaces. If you want space here, then I will have to either add a space inside the string itself here, or I have to add the space here. Space is also a character that can be a part of a string. So if I say NIT space ISH and hatch, then the output would be this. So what you can do is, so this addition of integers that you're doing, this is an addition operation. Similarly, when you're joining two strings together using the plus sign, it's called concatenation. You are concatenating two strings together. So just like we can concatenate two strings together, you can concatenate a string and a number, an integer or a floating point. So you can concatenate, let's say Nitish, and you can say plus 18. And this will output a string that has Nitish 18 overall, like this. So this is what we're doing here. We're saying scoreboard.setText to the name to the string score : space, and then we are concatenating the value of the variable score after this by saying plus the score variable. That is why we are saying score : space and then the number. If you remove the space from here, you will see for yourself what will happen. There won't be any more space once you start scoring the game. So see, now there is no more space between the word SCORE : and the number. The space was there because I had added a space inside the string itself. Along with that, you can treat numbers as strings as well. So if you enclose, let's say 2 plus 2 like this inside a string, double quotes, inside double quotes or single quotes, then this will not output 4. Okay, this doesn't mean 4 because this is a string There is no arithmetic operation that can be done inside the characters of a string like this. Okay, this is just 2 plus 2. This is equal to 4. Alright, so here basically each of these characters, the 2, the plus, the space, and then the second 2, all of these are being treated as separate characters. These are not treated as numbers and symbols. So numbers can be turned to strings, and you can perform addition operation on numbers, but you can perform only concatenation operation on strings. Now there are more different types of data that we will be learning about as you go through the entire course. Alright, so we are done with this lesson. Our game is ready. You can now run your game and play the game entirely. I missed one thing. Actually, let's do something else. What I want to do is I want to provide a visual feedback that my ball has collided with the goal box. So basically what I'm saying is, currently we are not able to clearly see whether my ball has actually collided with this goal box or not. So what I want to do is, whenever my ball collides with the goal box, I want the color of this goal box to turn green. We can do that here itself, inside the detect collision code. So here at the end, what I can do is just insert your cursor here and then go to your goal box object and scroll down, and you will see that there is a function called setColor. You can click on this and it will add a line of code that says goalbox.setColor, and then there is a string here that contains the name of the color. So this one says set the color to red. Yeah, currently we can see the goal box already has the color red. I'll change this red to green. So what I'm saying is, anytime my ball collides with a goal box, set the color of the goal box to green. Now let's run this and see what happens. So when I run this, what will happen is my ball can pass through the goal box, but when it passed through the goal box turned green. I want the goal box to turn back to the red color after 1 second. So basically what I want to do is, I want to tell my computer that set the color of the goal box to green, then copy this line of code, and I want to tell it to wait for 1 second and then set the color of the goal box to red. I have just written this as a comment here, okay? My computer will not wait for 1 second right now. We already know that computers read all of these lines at a very fast pace. So it will, whenever ball collides with the goal box right now, the goal box will turn green, and then immediately the goal box will turn red because of this line of code. I want to show you a way in which you can tell your computer to wait for some time before running a specific code. So to make your computer wait before running some code, we use a command called SetTimeout. So we have this code called set and then timeout. You see, as I was typing set, it showed me the output of do I want to use SetTimeout. See this? This is what I want to use. So it is set and then there is a capital T. IME time up. Okay, SetTimeout. SetTimeout is a function that you can use to make your computer wait for some time. And how to use this function? So you write SetTimeout, you follow it with a pair of round brackets and end it with a semicolon. Now inside the SetTimeout function, just like for all the other functions we have been doing till now, it requires some inputs. So SetTimeout requires 2 inputs. First input is going to be the code that it needs to run. And then the second input is going to be the time after which the code needs to run. So the first input is going to be a function. You just write the word function the way you have been doing till now. You write the word function followed by a pair of round brackets and a pair of curly brackets. So inside the curly brackets, you will write the code that you want to run. And after the curly brackets, you write a comma, and then you write the second input. The second input is a number. It's the time after which you want whatever is written inside the curly brackets to run. So this time is to be written in milliseconds. Okay, so if I write 1000, it will mean that whatever is written inside the curly brackets will run after waiting for 1000 milliseconds. So your computer will run everything till here, and then wait for 1000 milliseconds and then run the code that's written inside the curly brackets of setTime. So inside the curly brackets, what I will do is I'll press enter here, and then I can select this goal box.set color to red. I can cut the line of code from here, and then I can paste it inside the SetTimeout function. Just click on Prettify to make the indenting proper. And now you see what we have done is we have written this line of code. Now what's happening is basically when the ball is going to collide with the goal box, then your score will increase, the text will display the new score, and the goal box color will change to green. And then your computer will see that there is a set timeout. So it will check for the time it has to wait. It will check for the time, and the time it says is 1000. So 1000 means 1000 milliseconds. So your computer will wait for 1000 milliseconds, and then it will go inside this function and run the code that's written inside the function. And what is this code here? This code here tells that the color of the goal box should become red again. So once the color turns green, after 1 second, the color of the goal box will turn red. So let's run this and see if it's working or not. So now, when I press the space key and I press the Q button, yeah, see? So the box turned green, score increased, and then after some time, the box turned back to red. Let's see it again. See? It was green for some time and then it turned red. So we are done with this lesson, by the way. So now you can log into your account, remix your project, publish your project, give it a name, and save it. Cool. See you guys in our next lesson. Bye-bye.